Okay, go on, fellas. Get him out of here. Let's have a good go. Come on, then. You ready? Come on, you lot. Go on, then.
Oh, 'tis our delight for the red and white. The Imps are here to stay. Oh, 'tis our delight for the red and white. The Imps are here to stay.
How's that? Boom. Okay, so I was muted. Real world problems. Am I still on mute? Can you hear me now? Hear me now. Looking for the comments. Everyone's saying no sound at all. Still better. There we go. Better. Some people would argue that is perhaps not the case. So I've got to be quick. I'm recording the podcast, the League One podcast, very, very shortly. But I wanted to do just a little bit of conversation about Alistair Smith. So we're talking 24 years old, central midfielder, 6'1", so he's got some height, he's got some physical presence, can operate just to the left of centre, can operate kind of in a relatively attacking midfield role, almost certainly a like-for-like replacement for Matty Virtue. And if we were to go and try and get Virtue as well, that would be a really tight three-man midfield. But I think that this is virtually, pardon the pun, a like-for-like replacement for Matty Virtue. He has goals in him. He scored plenty of goals for Sutton over his time. I think I've got up here. He scored 13 league goals for them in 68 outings. He's certainly a box-to-box player. I think that he will allow us to transition from kind of a two holding midfielders to a more attacking kind of setup if we really want to. So Alistair Smith, he started his career as a trainee at Mansfield Town. He had loan spells at Frickley, at Kettering, at Loughborough Dynamo and at Altrincham. He then moved to Altrincham, did really, really well there, kind of rave reviews. So he's dropped out of the Football League as a youngster to get regular football, to come back in. Really, really wise move. Gone to Sutton United. Sutton fans really love him. I've literally got a WhatsApp on come through right now from Mike Dowling at the Sutton podcast. He's just put, "You've got a real diamond there." And Mike's getting some stick because he said to me in an interview last week he's outgrown Sutton United. He's been getting some stick for that. But I think that's very much the case. I think this feels to me very much like a player moving. I remember when Alex Woodyard left us and we were a League Two side and he joined a League One side. Different type of player. I get that. This isn't a comparison of the two. It's a comparison of the move. It's a step up. He's 24 years old, so he's free. He's just in that sweet spot between us not having to pay compensation, but still being young enough to go on and be a success and potentially earn as a sell-on. Interesting, we've specified a 2-year contract as well. My opinion is that this is a player that's come to play first-team football. I think he's a player who, by the looks of things, was certainly coveted by other League One clubs. There was a report came out this morning that Gillingham were after him as well. So he's a player that's certainly very, very well coveted. Sutton fans would have loved to have kept him, but I think that there's for many years we've been in that food chain where we're in League Two and our players come through and they want to test themselves in League One. Richard Butcher was a classic example of that. Obviously he stepped up to Oldham. Okay, it didn't work out for him at Oldham, but that's not the point. It's that kind of natural progression. I think it's really interesting as well to see a player who came through the youth academy at Mansfield. He was born in Beverley in Yorkshire. I think it's really interesting to see a player who has come through the academy, who's gone off back into non-league football, plied his trade there and worked his way back up. And consider this, that he's been to Frickley, that he's been to, was it Kidderminster, Kettering? He's been to Loughborough Dynamo, he's been to Altrincham, he's done the rounds. So next time we're kind of looking at our young players, for instance, Jovan Makama, and he's been on this non-league spell and that non-league, doesn't have to make that step up straight away. Now, Alistair Smith, when you think about Loughborough, when you think about Frickley, when you think about Kettering, they're all kind of pretty much of a muchness non-league. So I think that it's a really good signal to young players, our young players, particularly those that may go out back on loan, that actually several loan spells can be beneficial. Just because Morgan Worsfold Greg has been to X, Y and Z non-league and will likely go out again, it doesn't mean that he's of no value to us. Some players are little late bloomers. And I saw it written about Sean Rowan, I think, earlier. About a young player who, well, is he really worth this? He's just a solid player. The kid's 19, 20 years old. So if you're a young player and you're playing senior football at that age, I think you're obviously worth money. And I know I'm deviating a little bit from Alistair Smith here, but I'm just I think it's really important to see that transition. Alistair Smith, when he was discarded by Mansfield Town, I doubt that they ever thought that he would be making a move from the division they're in to their much bigger local rivals at that stage of the season, or at that stage of his career. This is the first move of the summer. We know that there are going to be more moves. There are going to be more players coming in. It wouldn't surprise me if we see more permanent deals this summer than we see loan deals. I think Mark Kennedy's already alluded to it. I like the idea of us having our own players. You're less reliant on players moving on. You are planning more for the future. The teams that do well this season, mark my words, will be teams who have retained 5, 6, 7 first team players from last season and who did relatively well. If you finish in the top 10 and 6 or 7 of your players from kind of that, or 5 or 6 of your players from that kind of group start the next season, you're not in a bad place. And when you think about us with Pawdy and with Adam Jackson and with Ethan Arahan and with Ben House, with Danny Mandrew, players like that, all you need to do, I said it the other day, is just pepper around them. We have the midfielder in Ethan Arahan, who I think has the potential to be one of the best midfielders Lincoln City have had in my lifetime. I won't say ever, because I haven't seen every single Lincoln City player. For me, Alistair Smith is the sort of player that I like to see us go and get and bring in, proven at the level before. Now, there is a caveat. We've had players who have come in and been proven at the level before. We had it last season with Charles Vernon. We had it with Theo Archibald. So we've had it where players have come in and they've got like great stats from League Two, and then they don't quite settle. But then we had it with Paulie O'Connor. So Ben House came up 2 divisions. So, there's always risk and reward. I like the sound of Smith. I like, I'm a fan of central midfielders. Like, a lot of people like their wingers. They like their attackers. I like a workhorse. I like a central midfielder. I like one that can get forward box to box. Tom Pett won me over a couple of seasons ago. What we've got here is a player in similar style, similar kind of positioning, but he's bigger, he's younger. I hope he's going to be a really good signing. I'm not going to get carried away by a player who I haven't seen play. I think that's a really easy trap to get into. But again, reading what I've got here from Mike from the Sutton United podcast, to seeing what's being said around kind of the transfer over the last hour or two, it is exciting. Let's go to some of your comments. First of all, plenty of you said can't hear you, Gary. I had a great chat with Adam a couple of weeks ago, Adam. It was good to catch up with you, mate. I'm glad you can hear me now. Hear me now. Cornell must be having his tea. So let's have a look. Then Kate says, yep, sounds on, all good. Ryan Whelan says, back again, rolling out all the catchphrases. In fact, there's more comments about being able to hear me than there is anything. Oh, here we go. Ben Ward says, hear you. I can see you, you dick. Yes, well, this is me doing a recording without telling you, Ben. The story goes, last week they all put a podcast out, Ben, Charlie and Chris. I wasn't on it. They didn't wait to see whether I could record or not. So, trouble in the ranks. Right, let's have a look. So, Gaz Nicholson, can you hear me? First signing of the summer. Can hear you. Yep, that's really good. Bob says Cornell's going to be spanking his bed tonight. He's, yeah, okay. Very good. Jacob, hello, pal. I hope you're well. You look to be having a really good time this summer. Dominique, Dom, which do you prefer? Let me know. Really excited about this signing. Yeah, look, again, on paper, it's a great signing. It's on paper, Charles Vernon was a great signing. On paper, Paulie O'Connor was a great signing. So he's always on the knife's edge. He's got all the right attributes, in my opinion. He's the right age, the right physicality. He's done it at Sutton. They seem to love him there. He's served his time. He was in the National League North with Kettering. He was in the National League with Altrincham. He's in League Two with Sutton United. Steady. I like that progression. Craig asks how I am, and Jacob asks how I am. I've actually bunged up with hay fever, and in 7 minutes, I'm recording with the Real AFL, a kind of a League Two preview. So that'll be out tonight. So if you want to listen to my voice a little bit more, you absolutely can do. Gav Hughes, Gav, see you on Saturday, mate. Get married on Saturday. Gav's coming up. Get married again on Saturday. Renewal service. Gaz, gets nice to get some business done early. Kev Sewell is a clown. Harvey Conyers, are you surprised we've announced the length of the contract rather than just saying short, long term? I don't know. I don't know whether it's a surprise or not. You never know what you're going to hear, do you, these days, whether a fee's disclosed, non-disclosed, whether it's long-term, whether it's not long-term. You don't really know. Don't know if it's something something that the player wants, the agent wants. I don't know. I like to know. I like to know that we've got a 2-year deal, because then, you know, in a year's time, you can ask the question, are we going to retain him, and that sort of thing. So I think it's good. Adam Bull liked the pod without me. Okay, that's brilliant. There we go. Ben says there was a day between setting the record and actually doing it. Incorrect. Check your WhatsApp. You said a time. Anyway, I'm not getting into an argument with you here because I am right. TL, is this signing more of a Virtue replacement or a Sanders replacement? Good question. In our 3-4-3, you played either Arahan and Virtue or Arahan and Sanders. So to be honest, whichever one's playing in the first team, you would hope that that's the player that he's going to be replacing. Ed Little says, heard that other League One clubs are in for Smith. Yep, that was in their press report. Please, we're attracting these young players. Absolutely. Craig says, do you think this could be the first of a snowball of signings in the next few weeks? I really don't know. I expect with the transfer deadline or the transfer window opening that there may be, but that's just me. I don't think it'll be a snowball. I don't think you're going to suddenly see us sign 3, 4, 5, 6 players, because people will be still, you know, some players will still be on their holidays and all of that sort of thing. So I'd be really, really surprised, I think, if that happened. Harry Jackson looks like a promising player, young attacking midfielder with a bit of height who can assist and score. Looking forward to seeing him play this season. Absolutely. David Ward seems a sensible lad, keeping his feet on the ground, but seems to be ambitious as well. Think could be a good long-term signing. I like that. And something else I liked when Gillingham were in for him earlier, you kind of, as soon as I saw that, I kind of thought, well, look, this now begins to drag on a little bit. You have to question the player. I remember when Tom Hopper was going to sign for us, back when he left Scunthorpe, and he met Danny and Nicky, so I was told, and he was also offered a contract to Southend, and he wanted to come to Lincoln. He would have preferred to have come to Lincoln, closer to his home and all that sort of stuff, but he went to Southend because it's League One, and he wanted to challenge himself. And I think that's the same sort of thing here. And it's like, you know, Ethan Arahan, he's come here. He could have gone to Forest Green for more money, and okay, they've got relegated, but he's come to a team where he wants to challenge himself and he wants to try and push on. And I think that we are getting recognised as a potential springboard for players, which I'm happy about. Adam Bull liked the piece on Wigan in the Real EFL pod, which I produce now. Yeah, worrying times for Wigan, absolutely 100%. Look, I've got to be quick. I'm going on in 4 minutes with the Real EFL. But Craig says, what, if any, position would you like to see as 9 sign next season? Craig, we need 2 wing-backs, potentially 1, but maybe 2, a goalkeeper, possibly another wide player, and we're going to need a backup striker. There we go. Look, thank you very much for watching. It's been a really quick podcast. It's nice been a really quick live show. It's been nice to get some of your opinion as well. We'll be trying to do these maybe smaller bite-sized ones like this when we do sign players or when there are any bits of news. But other than that, we'll then look to record a podcast, potentially not this week, but certainly looking at next week. We'll look to try and do a catch-up and that sort of thing as well. So thanks very much, everybody. Up the Imps.